Hi, it's Musharraf Hussain with the subject of interpreting taxing statutes. Our today's topic is justice. Justice has been defined by political scientists also, philosophers also, and jurists also. But what is just is still to be deciphered because it is not a static thing, it is rather a dynamic thing and it changes with the situation. The best offered synonym apart from the equality or the fairness which has been guaranteed even by Article 14 of the Constitution of India is sum suki. This means render everyone his due. This expression in simple words says that whatever is due to someone, whatever due claim of someone is there, whether it is satisfied or not. If the claim has been certified, then of course he will feel that justice has been given to him. Otherwise, he will feel aggrieved by that injustice. So, as we have seen that dispensation of justice is quite important. Law ensures social order through dispensation of justice. If justice is not dispensed with, if the willingness, the attitude of being just is not implemented in practical measures, then of course there will be no social order. Person will be feeling aggrieved and quite frustrated. That will result in chaos only. So the purpose of law to maintain social order needs to be fulfilled through dispensation of justice. The person should feel that just thing has been done with him. Rather, he has been rendered whatever dues is to him. Types of justice. Professor Amartya Sen, in his book on idea of justice, has very brilliantly observed that instead of defining justice, let us look where the injustice is. That is better to decipher than to define the justice. But for our purpose, we can classify justice into distributive, corrective, contractual, and behavioral. All these types are better illustrated when there is injustice, distributive injustice, corrective injustice, contractual injustice, or behavioral injustice. So let us see one by one. Distributive justice. Distributive justice signifies just allocation of rights and obligation to members of society through legal imposition. So it is on the part of the lawmaker that when they are making a law, when they are deciding over a certain issue of law, take for example, what should be the age when a person should be allowed to vote? Or rather, what should be the age when a person should be allowed to hold public office? Since such questions need to be answered positively and the answers sets the rights and obligations of a person. So if a person of 18 years of age is allowed to right to vote, then of course he gets a right as well as the obligation to vote. Similarly, setting the qualification for holding a public office. What should be the qualification? All these questions are policy questions and are answered by lawmaking body through law. Next comes corrective justice. Corrective justice is administered by a court or quasi-judicial body when a norm of distributive justice has been violated by a member of society. So suppose there is a rule that after the age of 60 one should not hold the public office, but someone violates it. Then the court comes and says, no, you have exceeded the age, so you have to leave that public office. Suppose take a case of taxation. In taxation, suppose a person is filing a return. If it does not files, then it is a violation. Then of course a quasi-judicial body will enforce it, though giving due opportunity of the representation. So we can see that a corrective justice may be restitutive or retributive. Restitution implies compensation. So if someone has made a damage to Mr. X, then Mr. X will go to the court and seek redressal of the injustice through the court, and the court will award necessary compensation, necessary damage to the Mr. X to be paid by the wrongdoer. The justice may be retributive in the sense that sometimes it is not a matter of compensation, but it's a matter of revenge, a vengeance. So if Mr. X files his return on time and Mr. Y does not file his return on time, and if there is no punishment for Mr. Y for filing late return, then of course Mr. X will feel aggrieved, because he will feel, why I filed return on time or why I paid tax on time, whereas Mr. X has not paid it. So there is a matter of vengeance. There arises a matter of frustration that why I complied the law when the non-compliance does not attract any punishment. So in that case, the quasi-judicial body imposes penalty for not filing of return, non-payment of taxes, etc. So the penalization will not benefit Mr. X, but he will satisfy his vengeance, his revenge, his frustration. Now, contractual injustice. Contractual justice seeks to enforce fair terms between stronger and weaker parties to a contract. In a contract, we see that parties agrees to a particular terms and conditions. That is voluntary. But often it has been observed that, take a case of international treaty, a weaker nation is coerced to agree to the terms of the treaty, of a multilateral treaty, even if it is not favorable to him. Similarly, say a trade union is there who is bargaining with the management, and if trade union bargains in a term which is not beneficial to the employees which he is representing, then of course, though it is a voluntary one, and though the trade union has been formed by the employees for their benefit with their own volition, there is a reason for contractual injustice. Next come behavioral justice. Behavioral justice seeks to redress exploitation by an unfair member of a society. Sometimes it happens that a particular member of the society gets more than his due. So that kind is also a injustice to the others who is getting his due only. Suppose, take an example that some person beats a child, say for petty offenses, petty wrongs. If he beats it cruelly, then of course there will be behavioral injustice. Take another example that will be very popular, and that is a very popular one. Raising of expectation. Suppose a political party in its manifesto makes a number of promises and raises the expectation of people that after winning the election and after coming to the government, it will fulfill all those promises, but fails to deliver it when it comes to power. In that sense also, behavioral injustice will aggrieve the people who have voted them to come to power. Now, the distributive and corrective justice, what we have seen earlier, are enforced first by the lawmaker and second by the court. The contractual justice, of course, there are some laws, say Consumer Protection Act, say Competition Act, to control the unfair treatment of customers. But for behavioral justice, like the last instance which I talked about, political manifestos, there is dearth of law, there is lack of law to control such kind of injustice. The only option for the public is that when the next election comes, he has to ensure that the party who raised a false expectation shall not return again back to the power. But of course, there is an absence of law in this regard. Thank you.